As mentioned a moment ago, this is the 16th event of its kind, so it's a Sweet 16 celebration. I've been here up at the podium, I think, at 15 of them, and it's an honor and pleasure. I'm Jordan Rich, and it's been my esteemed honor to do this for so many years, and I hope to do it for many years to come, because it's a chance to meet, thank you. It's a chance to be with each other, with colleagues, with friends, with people we've worked for, with people we worked with, and it is just basically a celebration of talent, diversity, and passion. So, without further ado, we're going to get underway, and you can certainly enjoy your first course while we take care of a little important business. The first thing that we want to do is recognize those who in the last year, Hall of Fame members, have left us, have passed, and they've left a tremendous legacy. So on the video screen, you're about to see the 4 individuals that we are honoring. They are in alphabetical order from left to right, and I'll just tell you briefly about each one. Philip Drumheller, very active broadcaster in central western Massachusetts for roughly 60 years. And I love his story because he did it all. He was a general manager, a sales executive, and general manager at WIZZ. But most impressive in my estimation is he was a morning man. He was on the air. So we'll miss him, but we appreciate his contributions. The next name on our list is a legendary one, Norman Knight, who created the Yankee Network, a quality chain of radio stations. And for years, he was also one of Boston's major philanthropists, gave so much, including founding the 100 Club, a charity that offers help to families of police and firefighters killed in the line of duty. And I know some of you here are still involved with the 100 Club, and we thank you for that. We lost Sarah Ann Shaw, a lovely lady who was hired by Channel 4 back in October of 1969, Boston's first African-American woman TV news reporter. Her reputation for simplifying the voices of vulnerable communities and motivating young people helped her to achieve status as the best in the business. Her passion was covering education and human interest stories, and in addition to reporting the news, she anchored public affairs programs for WBZ and WGBH. And finally, a voice in the night, overnight at WBZ and elsewhere, was silenced, but we'll never forget him. He was an amazing guy. His name was Dick Summer. He became the program director of the then and now popular, iconic radio station WMEX in Boston. But he was known for a lot of things. He was a pilot, he was a hypnotist, and he had a voice of velvet that women adored. And I've tried to emulate him my entire career. How about a nice round of applause in memory of those amazing people? Next, to sort of set the stage for what you're about to enjoy today, a gentleman I've had the pleasure of working with now for many, many years. He is, along with the rest of the committee, the backbone, I believe, of the Hall of Fame, and he has so much to do with making this event and every other event around it happen. And note to Steve Martin, he wants his hairline back. Please welcome Peter Brown.
So as a former television producer, we're 3 minutes heavy. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today as we recognize 9 gifted women and men and welcome them into the Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Today, we honor their collective history, embrace the individuality of their legacies, and recognize a standard of excellence that each has sculpted into defining their careers. Let me take note of those we are recognizing today. First, a Springfield TV icon at Table 21, who not only created and carved the path in those early days of broadcasting, but to this day, at more than 9 decades, I rounded it out, Barbara, so there was no specific age. And counting is a cherished and beloved personality in Western Massachusetts. Our next inductee will never rest on his laurels. Nothing can be described as fine when you think of him. Oh, that may be his last name, but exceptional is his middle name. You get to use that once, Bill. Politics is this inductee's passion. For more than 3 decades, she kept the Pauls on their toes and on the hot seat, while also trying to coach them through her annual holiday Santa sing-along. We are inducting a radio duo this year. They were a family, and this was a family you actually wanted to be part of every weekday morning. Their jocular format opened the door for generations of broadcasters to follow. Our next inductee is a historian, an award-winning investigative journalist. He has brought to us stories that stand as a beacon to the truth, unveiling injustice and revealing voices that are not always heard. This is his compass, his true north. Sports radio is red hot, but someone needed to start that fire, and this inductee lit that match. With his brilliant wit and infectious humor, and oh yeah, he had a few scoops on our Boston sports teams. So let's take this from the big O to another O, who created magic on the FM dial for years, revered by her fans. She is one who never stands still for long and has taken her scores of talents to new heights. Our next inductee is all too familiar, we are all too familiar with her work, not only on the radio as a gifted personality, but for her commitment off the air to community. And I should add, she was chosen as the 2023 Broadcaster of the Year by the Massachusetts Broadcasters Association. Way to go, Pebbles. As we recognize our Hall of Fame inductees today, I also want to say thank you to the folks who actually have made this event possible. The Massachusetts Broadcasters Association, its board members and chair Kyle Grimes, and its executive director Jordan Walton. And of course, Jordan, did you pay for that extra little nod there? And of course, the Hall of Fame committee, and we couldn't do it without Bert Paretsky, a special nod out to Bert. Would board members of the NBA and the Hall of Fame committee please stand or raise your hands so we can recognize you now? And it's always a pleasure to acknowledge those already inducted into the Hall of Fame. Would you stand or raise your hand and be recognized? I want to thank all of our sponsors for their support. You'll see their names in the program book, along with bios of each of our inductees. I also want to recognize the students from Curry College who are here today with us. And I'd also like to thank the service team that is here at the hospital today who will be taking care of us. Thank you for your service. Now, to all of you, I have a request. We encourage you to nominate someone who you believe is deserving of induction into the Hall of Fame. Recommendations for induction may be made anytime during the year. The Hall of Fame committee will begin the process of choosing inductees for 2025 in the fall of this year. If you visit the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame website, you'll see the link. We ask you to fill it out, pick the nomination form. Please provide as much information as you can. All this information as well is in your invaluable program book. To our 9 inductees here today, you will enter the Hall of Fame. You are joining more than 160 others who are the bedrock of broadcasting in Massachusetts. It is now your turn to be honored for all you have given to your audiences and to your community. And it is our turn to say thank you and congratulations and welcome to the Hall of Fame. And before I pass it back to Jordan, I want to take this moment to recognize and show our appreciation for our dear friend, who for more than a decade has been our MC and put up with me along the way. Jordan, for all you have done for us and for broadcasting, a heartfelt thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter, and you set the table beautifully. So we're going to flow through some wonderful nomination reports and also some wonderful videos. Our first honoree today is very special. We have expanded video introductions of each, but our first honoree today is very special. She's a beloved broadcast personality, and we don't use that term lightly or loosely. For many decades in Western Massachusetts, the name Barbara Bernard has resounded in a very positive way. Find out more, watch this video.
Long before The View, The Talk, Oprah, and Ellen, there were local talk shows. And in the 1950s and 60s, there was none more popular in Western Massachusetts than the Barbara Bernard Show. Barbara got her start in broadcasting in 1944, writing and performing radio commercials for WHYN. She was just 17 years old and a student at Mount Holyoke College. She was also a college reporter for the Holyoke Transcript Telegram, reporting news events at Mount Holyoke. Following her graduation from college in 1948, Barbara married, and she and her husband George settled in a suburb of Pittsfield. Barbara worked at a day nursery, but her Saturdays were spent producing and performing 3 radio shows. Remember, that was an era when there were very few women working in broadcasting. In 1950, Barbara and her husband moved to Holyoke, and she resumed working with WHYN with a talk show called It Happened in Your Own Backyard. It was so popular that in 1955, the sponsors and station management wanted Barbara to take her radio program to TV. It Happened in Your Own Backyard was renamed The Barbara Bernard Show, and it ran on WHYN Channel 40 until the early 1970s. Unfortunately, there's no film or videotape of any of Barbara's shows. Barbara interviewed people from all walks of life, from celebrities appearing in the area to local people making a difference. All the while Barbara was on television, she wrote a column for the Holyoke Transcript, and when the Transcript folded, she began writing her column for the Springfield newspapers. Springfield Mayor Dominic Sarno calling Barbara's columns published every Thursday morning a bowl of chicken soup. Barbara continued writing that column until just a couple of years ago, as she put it, to go out on top. Now approaching her 97th birthday, Barbara Bernard is still going strong.
We have asked Peter to bring a microphone to Barbara's table, and Barbara, congratulations. The mic is yours.
Thank you so much. You know, all I can tell you is that it seems wrong to be so happy doing something that you've loved so much. I cannot tell you what a joy every single moment of my life has been in the profession that just kind of fell into my lap. Frankly, I thought I was going to be a school teacher and a wife and a mother all my life, but somehow I got into this wonderful profession. And those of you who are in it, I hope you agree with me that it is the best. There's nothing like spreading the news and spreading it correctly, which I think all of us do who are in this profession. I do want to say a special thank you for all the people in my lifetime who have helped me get where I have been. I begin first with my children, Nancy and Betsy, because if your mother is a busy working lady, you've got to be pretty special. You look at them nod their heads. You've got to make your own beds, you've got to make your own meals, you've got to do so much. And both girls did without ever a complaint. They were wonderful, they still are, and I am so proud of them. And they're here with me now. I know they don't look old enough to be my children, Nancy and Betsy. And Nancy and her husband Gary, who could not be here, produced two wonderful children. My granddaughter Elizabeth Walford Price, who is married to a wonderful man, Stephen, who couldn't be here. He's home taking care of their children. And Nancy and Gary's son, Jeffrey, who is a physician and a wonderful, wonderful grandson. And he had the great wisdom to marry this lovely girl, Nicole. So our family, we could not be happier. We've got grandchildren, we have great-grandchildren. Everybody likes everybody. I hope. And I must say that I could not be happier with the way my life has turned out. I wish there were people here with me. I wish George, I wish my mother, I wish people in my family who've always been so close to me. But I believe in heaven, and I think they're there, and I think they're all as happy as I am tonight to see this crowd, and especially to see my wonderful family. Love to all of you.
Yes, I concur. A standing ovation for a beautiful lady and still an amazing broadcaster. I just love listening to your voice, Barbara. So beautiful and so well trained, and you haven't lost an inch. You're doing great, and we really appreciate you being here and congratulate you. Our next nominee was nominated by many in the industry. He's now an inductee in a moment, and he may have noticed that his former rival, Peter Brown, we sent on assignment with the microphone out to Barbara with a wire. How quaint, right? Something you never had to do, right? Nah, you gave orders. You didn't have to do any schlepping. Anyway, Bill Fine is our next inductee. Very well known to broadcasters, not only here in New England, but around the country. Also, you know, his name is known far and wide as a mentor to many, as a leader and an advocate for many organizations relating to broadcasting. He has had an amazing career, and let's find out more on screen as we watch this video.
Community, commitment, character, those are the pillars on which Bill Fine built a 43-year career on local television. He grew up here in Massachusetts, graduated from BU, and spent nearly 30 years at WCVB TV.
I love the people at Channel 5.
Bill Fine's track to becoming one of the industry's most respected and recognizable executives began on the other side of the camera.
And I'm Bill Fine.
Yes, that's Bill getting his start anchoring sports at Hearst-owned WPTZ in Plattsburgh, New York. When a sales manager discovered Bill could read a ratings book, he convinced him to make the big move from news to sales, and that's when Bill quickly started climbing Hearst's leadership ladder. Bill first walked through the doors of WCVB in 1982 as an account executive. Eventually, he ran Channel 5's sales department, and then a big move to Baltimore, a second time, this one for his first top job, leading Hearst's storied WBAL. 7 years later, in 2005, Bill came back home to Boston,
Bill Fine.
for his ultimate dream job, President and General Manager of WCVB. Hearst Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer Jordan Wertlieb and former Chairman and CEO Hearst Television David Barrett were with him every step of the way.
Jordan and I are delighted to be with you on tape tonight to congratulate you. Well-earned recognition by the Massachusetts Association of Broadcasters. You've upheld the great traditions of the station and charted a great future course for the station over your 15 years or so.
I feel so much better now. I didn't know it was the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame. I thought it was the Ad League Softball Hall of Fame, and having seen Bill pitch, I was shocked. But now that I know it's the Broadcasting Hall of Fame,
all right.
I feel good about it. Bill, thank you for all your service. Thank you for personally being a mentor to me. I'm honored to be standing next to my mentor here in New York, and of course, you there in Boston. And as I can say to both of you in my current role, most importantly, as long as I'm at Hearst, you can count on your pension check. Congratulations, Bill.
Congratulations on a lifetime of work that cemented WCVB's status as Boston's news leader. During Bill's tenure as GM, WCVB earned a parade of coveted awards. 2 national and 9 regional Edward R. Murrows for overall excellence. 6 Gabriel Awards as the nation's best television station, numerous Emmys, and many more.
Congratulations.
But the success of the station was not measured by those accolades. What mattered most was its unmatched connection to community. Being there through tragedy like the Boston Marathon bombing, keeping us safe during every type of weather imaginable, and celebrating our teams and our city with those duck boat parades. Bill was a champion of causes like Home Base to benefit veterans, and of course the Ellie Fund, helping breast cancer survivors and their families. He honored those in need, energetically even getting a chance to play catch with that other GOAT, Tom Brady, in the name of charity. Through it all, Bill's family has meant the world to him, and now in retirement, well, let's just say being a grandparent is Bill's best job ever. And as always, his amazing wife, Gail, is by his side.
Bennett, Coppersmith, LaCamera, and Fine, the Mount Rushmore of television station general managers. Bill, it is an honor every day to walk into the station that the 4 of you vaulted to the top of our industry. Maximum congratulations on this richly deserved honor. While so many who will celebrate you today knew you well during your career, I've come to know you more in your retirement. I value our conversations, your unmatched insights on our business, and that you let me hang around just close enough on the golf course. Congratulations, Bill. Nobody did it better.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a fine example of an honoree, Bill Fine.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. The truth is, I hadn't seen that tape prior. They weren't going to let me. They assured me I would like it, and they were wrong. I loved it. And there's stories about everybody in that tape I could tell you, but I don't have time. My producer friend has given me a strict guideline. But thank you to WCVB's 5th general manager, Kyle Grimes, Margaret Cronin, Nick Terry, who I understood was the EP on this, and everyone involved in really creating a wonderful memento tape. And to so many of my wonderful colleagues here today, I have great stories about each of you. I just don't have the time to tell them. A special note of gratitude to Peter Brown and the Hall of Fame committee for this incredibly humbling honor. And to Kyle again, now as the MBA chair, and his dedicated board that approved my election. I greatly appreciate everyone's endorsement instead of a veto. Congratulations to my fellow inductees in the class of 2024. Sharing today with you is as affirming as it is humbling. Now, Peter, you've politely requested that we adhere to a 5-minute acceptance speech. Can I suggest that mine is officially starting right now? Today, I will go all in on gratitude, extending my heartfelt thanks to the colleagues, mentors, friends, and family that really create and comprise my world. My personal Hall of Fame starts with my colleagues from WCVB. I wouldn't be here today without them there. To say I hired carefully is an understatement. WCVB staff has long stood as a testament to longevity and professionalism. Most important, they're all really good people, smart people, capable of working well as a team. Their accomplishments have always left me deeply impressed and immensely proud, particularly in a city where our competitors and every broadcaster brings their A game every day. Boston is the best. They say you can't choose your bosses. Well, I sure tried, and to align with the best, and nailed it, mining the best from each one. I'm forever grateful to my superiors in New York and Boston. I received nothing but support, encouragement, empathetic understanding, or tough love when needed. And most of all, they accepted my strong desire to keep my family rooted here on the East Coast. But Boston was always preferred. The absolute superstar of my dozen department heads promoted to corporate or GM is Jordan Wertlieb, who you saw on the tape. And since he worked for me for 10 years and I worked for him for 10 years, you can understand some of the sense of humor. We both have stories that we'll go to our grave with. We both learn from each other, and we both respect each other immensely, and my time with him was to my great benefit. And I'm so honored today by the presence of my longtime career friend, final great boss, turned HTV president now, Mike Hayes. His mode of leadership, patient, understanding, and smart, works very well and will keep HTV as best in class. And thank you, Mike, for approving Kyle's generous offer to buy so many tables today. Of course, the most direct influence on my career growth came from my 3 predecessors at WCVB, Bob Bennett, Jim Coppersmith, and Paul LaCamera, who Kyle referred to, and one other, Phil Stoltz at WBAL. 4 very different men. They offered each perspectives that were unique and collectively provided a comprehensive education in local broadcasting akin to receiving a doctorate. Virtually all of my mentors are enshrined Hall of Famers in their own right. And to the Hall of Fame committee, please save some room for the numerous deserving members to my right that's sitting right in front of us from WCVB. Gail and I have also been blessed to have supportive friends, some of whom join us here today. They always swore they were always watching Channel 5, but what I do know for sure is they always overbid at our charity events. And it's great to have some retired 40-year friends from my early days at WCVB in attendance, taking time off from the golf course and the pickleball courts. As we all know, the industry can be taxing on families, and mine has been an unwavering source of support. Please allow me a moment longer to properly introduce and honor them. I have a lifetime of proud moments with kids, Ben, Allie, and Jeff. Allie, like her mother, demonstrated a desire for public service from day one, is a lover of 4-legged creatures, and applying her passion as the business manager of Angel West Memorial Animal Hospital. Ben is the longtime business manager of the newest member of the Patriots Hall of Fame, and that's why my voice is shot today. As a team, they were and remain unbeatable, and along with younger son Jeff, co-founded production hot house Shadow Lion. Jeff is currently embedded with the Celtics, producing All In, the inside story of their inevitable run to Banner 18. I'm equally proud of their personal choices of companions, daughter-in-laws, April and Lou, and future son-in-law, Alex, all entrepreneurs chasing exciting dreams with enterprises of their own. Bonus points to Ben and April for 2 spectacular grandsons, Lex and Levi. And my beautiful wife, Gail, of 38 years, as long as I was at WCVB, a true champion of helping others, who embraced WCVB's mission completely while carving out her own legacy as the executive director of the Ellie Fund and ignited a much-needed renaissance at the time. Most of my staff knows her and therefore also loves her. She was also my secret weapon with clients and the single most important reason I stand before you today. I only wish I had more time to tell you all the reasons why. This induction into the Hall of Fame is a remarkable gift, and I'm thrilled to now be counted among such esteemed company, including so many from Channel 5. To know me is to know my love of this business and WCVB, the opportunity to have worked with so many great broadcasters at a special Boston institution and in my original hometown of Needham, Mass. It was a privilege and nothing short of a wonderful dream come true. I thank you all so much.
That was a beautiful speech, well delivered by a man who knows how to deliver the lines. And Bill was telling me that he's involved in the movie business and the TV business on a different scale, a different level. So keep your eyes peeled for an upcoming TV series that should be a hit. Good luck on that, Bill. Congratulations. Isn't this fun? Just sitting around and kibitzing. And by the way, the fact that this is moving so quickly means there'll be plenty of time after and during dessert, I'm sure, for people to get together and reminisce a little bit. Our next honoree, our next inductee, is a beautiful lady by the name of Alison King. And she has brought political reporting to definitely new heights for so many years on New England Cable News, on NBC Boston, and today she's still reaching new heights at the Harvard Kennedy School Institute of Politics. She has done it all in politics and met some really interesting people. We want you to enjoy this video that'll tell you more about this remarkable lady's career.
You are a political reporting juggernaut.
Your work has been powerfully important for our country and for the Commonwealth.
You've been a source of truth, a force for accountability in Boston politics.
Thank you for your 30 years of service in the Boston media.
Thanks for being a good, solid, fair journalist.
And although she made a lot of news, and she helped or made a lot of other people make a lot of news, her interviews were almost always the most pleasant on television.
I know how determined you are. What a phenomenal reporter. And one day I was going into an airport. I was sort of incognito, I thought. Turned a corner, and there you were with a microphone, always there.
A high level of integrity, who can ask the hard question without being harsh, and you are always that. But more than that, I love you. I think you are just a model citizen, alongside of being a model reporter.
Just want to say you made me crazy sometimes.
Why are we lagging?
And you made me laugh. I'm never going to get through this. But you always brought your A game.
Thank you for all you do. You've really left a mark on the First in the Nation primary.
Every time you asked a question, I knew it was going to be a tough one. Even when it was tough, you always asked it with a smile. So it was like a little disconcerting.
Even though I'm breathing a little easier these days, knowing I won't be grilled by you in an interview, I'll miss your insightful reporting.
Getting into communities, keeping us informed, getting answers that people deserve.
You've covered it all with depth, with fairness, with insight in state houses, courthouses, campaigns from the halls of Congress
Is that disappointing to you?
to the White House
Top thing people told me I should ask you about.
to the front lines of conflicts around the world.
You know, you and I have been doing this dance that journalists and elected officials do for a very long time. You always have that incredible knack for getting us off our disciplined messaging.
I have admired you and at the same time kind of feared you.
Your impact will be felt for many years to come.
You've heard the criticism.
Having a free press isn't enough. It has to be an honest press. And you're one of the most hardworking, honest people in the business.
You were as tough as they came, but I always enjoyed our interactions because you were always professional. You didn't hit below the belt. You didn't take any cheap shots. And you've made me respect what the media does as much as anyone has ever done.
You have played a pivotal role in covering Massachusetts politics and making sure the reporting is fair and accurate.
And I can't forget to mention organizing lawmakers across Massachusetts to sing holiday tunes with you every year. The most famous reindeer of all. It takes a special person like you to make that work.
Dancing and prancing. One more thing, though.
From Atlantic to Pacific.
We're not going to miss that Carol sing-along thing.
5 golden rings.
From the Massachusetts State House, in Northampton, Massachusetts, in Foxborough, in Claremont, New Hampshire, in Londonderry, from Hartford, Connecticut, in Miami, on Capitol Hill, in New York City, in Atlanta, in Des Moines, Iowa, in Columbia, South Carolina, from the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia, from Boston City Hall. I'm Alison King, NBC 10 Boston.
Ladies and gentlemen, a woman with an amazing iPhone contact list that we'd all love to check out, Alison King.
Wow, that was kind of overwhelming. Thank you so much to the Massachusetts Broadcasters Association for this wonderful honor, and congratulations to all the other honorees who I greatly respect and admire for your contributions over the years. Becoming a TV reporter was my dream job, and I feel so lucky to have been able to get that opportunity in 1990 at WECT in Wilmington, North Carolina, and then to be able to work in the business for almost 35 years. Taking a job in 1995 at a 3-year-old startup called New England Cable News, or NECN, was a serendipitous turning point in my career. Instead of being focused on murders, fires, and car wrecks, our management team encouraged us to seek out untold, interesting stories, and when controversial, to provide context and balance. After a year, I became the political reporter. Now, we've all heard the saying that politics in Massachusetts is a blood sport, and for me, it was trial by fire. I'll never forget one of my first press conferences in Boston when then Governor William Weld announced he was running for U.S. Senate against incumbent John Kerry. Now, I could barely get my mic into the scrum as legendary political reporters Janet Wu, John Henning, Andy Hiller, and John Keller yelled out their probing questions. My elbows got a lot sharper that year. And what better state to cover news and politics than Massachusetts? As we often say in the newsroom, there is always a Massachusetts angle. Here, home to some of the nation's top universities, hospitals, tech companies, and legendary sports teams, go Celtics, I got to be on the front lines of historic firsts, from the landmark gay marriage decision to the election of the state's first black governor and the first female governor, never mind the front row seat to the Kennedy family dramas. There was barely a presidential cycle that a Massachusetts candidate wasn't in the race, including John Kerry, Mitt Romney, Elizabeth Warren, and William Weld. I had the privilege of covering 7 presidential races and was able to interview every Democratic and Republican presidential candidate since 1996. It was a great run, and I loved every minute of it. I have to give a huge shout out to that original NECN management team that was in place for well over a decade, which, as you all know, is pretty unheard of in TV news. Founder and president Phil Balboni, news director Charlie Kravitz, executive editor Iris Adler, and the managing director, later news director Tom Melville. They are all incredibly smart, innovative, creative, and fair-minded journalists. They trusted me and gave me the opportunities that allowed me to grow and improve as a journalist. I'm so grateful I was able to learn from the very best in the business. And of course, a shout out to the current NBC Boston management team, including President Chris Whalen, VP of News Kirsten Wolf, VP of Programming Maggie Baxter, and VP of Marketing Laurel Gremmelsbacher. Thank you all for being here. The station is in fantastic hands with you all at the helm. I want to acknowledge a few people. First and foremost, my husband Pierce, who put up with my nutty TV reporter schedule for over 2 decades and has been the equal partner that allowed me to be both a mother and a journalist. My daughter Saunders, who was with me every step of the way as I covered John Kerry's 2004 presidential race, in utero, that is. My son Pierce, unfortunately, could not be here as he's in Madrid this year teaching English to middle school students. They are the true joys of my life. I'm so grateful my sister Susan is here today. She is a lawyer, but really the best writer in the family. My brother-in-law Dave, he's a lawyer too. We're overrun with lawyers in our family. Did I mention my husband Pierce? I have 2 other awesome siblings, Karen and Tom, and his wife Claudia, who are unable to be here but have always been big supporters. And my sisters and brother-in-law, Lorraine Haley and Marina and George Reiser, thank you so much for being here. I wish Mamita could be here today as well. As many of you know, newsrooms can be very stressful environments, especially during a crisis or breaking news. I was able to get through a lot of that thanks to my coworkers. TV newsrooms are full of characters. A lot of type A, whip-smart, hysterically funny extroverts. So a big thank you to all my TV besties for supporting me all these years, making me laugh, sharing story ideas, and especially for being here today. And of course, I have to mention my longtime videographer and producer, also known as my work husband, Sean Callahan. When you've been on as many road trips to press conferences, political conventions, New England back roads, and Trump rallies as we have, you really get to know someone. Sean, I don't know if you're here. Oh, he's here, he made it. Oh, I'm so glad. Thanks for making me look good and for being a great friend. I've said it once, and I'll say it again. I always thought of him as my little brother, but I'm sure he always considered me his grandmother. Finally, I wish my parents were here, Nancy and Jackson King. They were my biggest fans, and I am grateful for some of their best attributes that I certainly tapped into as a journalist. From my mother, the nurse, a genuine empathy for others and treating everyone with respect and kindness. From my father, the lawyer, a sense of fairness and the ability to ask tough questions and seek out the truth, which was really annoying as a teenager. I know they are all smiling down. Thank you for this very meaningful recognition.
Alison King. We are just moving along at a beautiful clip here, and everyone is doing exactly what we asked them to do. They're within time limits, and this gives me a moment to say how excited I am about the next several inductees, because many of whom are dear friends of mine, and we have a lot of radio people coming up. Not to slight the TV people, but radio people matter too, so we're very excited about that. And the next inductees, plural, fit the bill when it comes to radio. And we are honoring a very funny and very exciting morning show, the Joe and Andy radio team. 9 years in the morning at WROR, and if you'll excuse the expression, jocularity with popularity. And They are great guys. Andy is not with us, but Joe is. And we have something special for the late Andy Moes. Will be represented by his wife, Diane. And for Joe Martelle, another great radio guy, Joe Cortez. But let's look at this video, which really tells you a lot more and will get you to smile.
Joe and Andy. 98.5 WROR. You won't believe what Joe and Andy said Friday morning.
It's time now for Joe and Andy's Dating Do's and Don'ts, our advice to the single crowd.
Now be sensitive about this one, okay?
We don't get a lot from young people.
No, listen to this. I'm in the 6th grade. She's very serious here. My boyfriend is in the 7th grade. Yesterday, he asked me to play doctor. What does that mean? Joanne Marsh of Holden, Massachusetts.
Oh, wants to play doctor, huh?
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry,
I
honey.
bet you do.
Don't worry, sweetheart. He just wants to order some unnecessary lab tests, perform needless surgery, and double bill Medicaid.
98.5 WROR.
With Joe and Andy. Good morning. I'm Channel 5's Eileen Prose.
Good morning. From Joe and Andy and Eileen and Mike and Bill, Fred, Charlie.
This is the studio of ROR FM, 98.5 on the dial. And if the faces of these men aren't familiar, perhaps their voices are. Because from 5:30 to 10 each morning, Joe Martelle and Andy Moes are at their best, bringing you music, weather, news, and information with their impromptu style and humor.
Dear Joe and Andy, I'll admit it. I'm a party animal, and it's that special time of the year. A party here, a party there. How can I tell if my new boyfriend is a party animal, too? Serena Brown of Lexington, Massachusetts.
Boy, how can you tell if somebody's a party animal?
Yeah.
Well, I really, let me see, my grandmother now was a real party animal.
Wait a minute,
And
your
I can tell-
grandmother?
Oh, yes, are you
Come
kidding
on.
me? Joe, in her will, this is no joke, when she died, she asked to be cremated and have her ashes turned into a dip. Now that's a party animal.
Enjoy your party this weekend, and think of your pals, Joe and Andy, at ROR FM.
Waking you up with Joe and Andy. ROR FM.
We do need another song. Let's bring him on the right way here on the Joe and Andy family this morning. I wish we had time to take phone calls. He's been gracious enough to come by our studios this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jimmy Carter.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Well, good morning. I came by to thank you all for helping my daughter when she needed it.
Boy, it's good to see you. You look great.
Well,
you look
getting along
terrific.
fine. I was out running this morning early and looking at the beauties of the Boston area.
Now, wait a minute, where do you go running? If you're here in Boston, you must stop traffic wherever you go.
I run before you get up, and before most of the people in this community, when the air pollution is low and not much traffic. But this morning I was over in Cambridge and I was running alongside the river. I know the folks that advertise in your program don't have to pay you anything. I know the advertisers will be very delighted to hear that.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you later.
Really good
Thank
to
you,
see you.
Mr.
Thank you.
Waking you up with Joe and Andy. ROR FM.
You were going to have to take it easy. The doctor said no excitement.
Honey, we're home.
Who the hell are you? I'm Joe.
He's Joe. Who are you?
I'm Joe.
You're Joe. Yeah. Hello.
This is Joe Martelle and Andy Moes, my buddies from Boston. They do a radio show up there that you wouldn't believe. What do you mean by that?
What does the Fenno mean by anything?
Obviously, you know him well.
Joe and I went to high school together. Dun, dun, dun.
When we knew you were in the hospital, we knew what our mamas would like to bring you.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Hey, perhaps you'd like to show us a wild and freewheeling night in the Big Apple, huh?
No. Oh, you could come. No.
Why not?
They're in protective custody. Well, why are you in protective custody?
Don't
say a word.
Why not? Yeah, why not?
Because you'd broadcast it all over Boston at 5:30 tomorrow morning. That's why not. Would you broadcast it all over Boston at 5:30 tomorrow morning?
Yeah, would you?
Yeah.
Now, Sarah Edwards and Joe and Andy.
From Hankley's Magic Factory, welcome to Evening Magazine. I think I have finally found Barry Nolan's replacement. Voila! Did I just lose something out of my wand?
Wow.
Hey, welcome to the show,
Hey.
Joe and Andy
How
of
did you do
WR.
that?
Did I hurt you?
Boy, she got the magic touch or what?
We were just
Huh?
sitting at the studio having a
Yeah.
sandwich. Next thing I know, we're here.
Waking you up with Joe and Andy. RORFM.
Please welcome Diane Moes and Joe Cortez. And Joe has another special introduction to make.
Hello, everyone. Allison, if you thought this was overwhelming for you, I can't even tell you what it feels like for me. First of all, it was great for me seeing those videos because I really haven't seen anything like that in quite a long time. I want to thank, on behalf of Andy, the Mass Association of Broadcasters. Congratulations to Joe. I really wish he could be here today so I could applaud him in person. Congratulations to all the honorees. I am absolutely in awe of all of you who talk on the air, on television, radio, every day. You teach us, you inform us, and you connect all of us. So thank you so much to all of you in the broadcasting industry for what you do. This is an honor Andy would never have anticipated. It would have made him happy beyond words. Andy loved being on the radio. It's all he ever really wanted to do. I can honestly tell you he hated more than anything getting up at 3:30 in the morning. But by the time he got to the station and it was airtime, he was on. Andy loved an audience, he had an audience, and his job was to make them laugh, and he did. And he made me laugh every day, which was even more important because he always said, if Mom ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. Andy came to college to Boston for college. He majored in broadcasting and communications. He told me once that he almost changed his major because he had a broadcast professor who told him he'd never make it in radio. When Andy asked why, the professor bluntly told him, because you don't have a voice for radio. And Andy said, stunned, well, I knew I didn't have a face for television, but really a voice for radio? Anyway, what's great is that today, Andy could proudly say he proved that professor wrong. And I'm so proud of him, and I know so many of his friends and family here today are as well. When Peter called me to tell me Joe and Andy were being inducted today, the first person I called to share the news with, was Andy's best bud, Jasper White. Jasper was so excited. He was so proud. He said he couldn't believe that this was finally happening for Andy and that he wouldn't miss being here today for anything. He marked his calendar and a short time ago texted me that he was so looking forward to today. Andy adored Jasper and their third buddy, Lydia Shire. They were frequent guests on the show. Jasper once said Andy was a shameless promoter of his friends. Well, certainly Andy was no fool. His friends fed him well. As fate would have it, Jasper was the very last guest on Andy's very last radio show, January 25th, 2001. Jasper was super special to me, and I'm pleased that while Jasper can't be with us, his beautiful daughter, Haley White, is here to celebrate her Uncle Andy. I am also pleased that Haley is following in Uncle Andy's footsteps by having joined the broadcast industry and is working at WBUR. Finally, I want to acknowledge and thank Andy's family, Marla, his sister, his brother-in-law Dick, his nephew Chris, for being here and all of the influence that especially his sister gave. Seriously, if anything, if the apple didn't fall far from the tree, it never would have with Andy and Marla. Andy had many mentors and professionals, colleagues, good friends, and many of them are here today, and I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart for being here. Andy loved you all, and thank you for keeping him in your hearts all these years. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for bestowing such a great honor on a man who, in my opinion, was the smartest, kindest, funniest guy I've ever had the privilege of knowing. Thank you.
Andy's sisters stand up.
Marla, could you stand up?
Andy Moes' sisters here. Hi, Marla. So I got a chance. Peter Brown called me and says, can you call Joe Martelle and tell him he's going into the Hall of Fame? So I felt like it was a big guy from the NFL. Knocks on the door. You're going to the Hall of Fame. I called him. He was ecstatic. And I got a chance to talk to Joe for a while, and he said, you know what? I don't think I can make the trip. But last night I was watering my tomato plants. I'm Italian, that's what we do. And he said, you make sure you let everybody know in Boston that I don't have one foot in the grave. And he has a message for all of you.
Hi, I know this is not the usual way of receiving an award, but then again, Andy Moes, my radio partner for almost 10 years, and this guy, Joe Martelle, never did anything the usual way on the air in the morning. If you listen, you know what I'm talking about. But you know, something doesn't feel right here. I don't know exactly what it is. I think it's a hat. Yeah, this makes me feel a lot better. I really wanted to be with you live in living color, well, a little bit of color anyway, and be there in person to see you, a lot of my old friends who I work with in radio, and new friends. But I got a couple of health issues we're dealing with. And the doctor said, nay, no flying for Joey right now. So that's why I'm talking to you like this. I want to thank Peter Brown, who took many, many emails from me over the past couple of months. Thank you, Peter. And the Massachusetts Association of Broadcasters. And the rest of the inductees. Some of you I know, like my longtime friend Glen Ordway and Candy O'Terry, and some I only know from your own reputation. But it's well-deserving for each and every one of you. Congratulations. And thanks again to the committee. I really appreciate this honor. And I know Andy is looking down and he's smiling too. Thank you. Andy Moes and I got together just before Christmas in December of 1982. A lot of people said, how did you guys get together? He was my traffic reporter, and that in itself was a heck of a story. When Andy found out he was going to have the AccuVan and he had to do traffic, he parked the thing in his driveway, but before he did that, he asked the engineering department at RKO, I think it was either Phil Shea or David Crew, to get him the longest mic cord in the world. And he parked the van in the driveway and ran the microphone cord through his window in his kitchen to a table. And he would sit there and he would monitor Joe Green in the BZ flying machine, our competitor, and he would write down what Joe gave for traffic reports, because Joe was right on. I mean, he was Mr. Traffic extraordinaire in Boston. So Andy would write that down, and then 5 minutes later, when he went on with me with the traffic report, he would say exactly what Joe gave. And that was Andy all the way. Anyway, the traffic reports became secondary to what I was talking about that morning on the show for a topic. Andy's lines were funny, bombastic, they were great. He always came up with a great line. So Tom Baker, the GM at the time, said, let's put these two guys together. And he went to the program director, Gary Berkowitz, and he said, Gary, bring Andy in the studio for a couple of weeks with Joey, and let's see what the chemistry's like. And I remember Gary said, are you crazy? Andy in the studio? He said, I have a hard enough time controlling Joe. I'll never be able to control Andy. And you know, it's like a loose cannon going off. And Tom said, just give it a shot. So Gary calls me and he said, Andy's going to be in the studio with you tomorrow morning. I know you're going on vacation in a couple of weeks. Let's humor Tom and put it together and see what happens. And he said, go on vacation. When you come back, we'll go back to normal. Andy will be back in traffic. and you will be doing the show solo. I said, okay. Andy was like the Dutch uncle who came to stay for Sunday dinner and ended up staying for 10 years. And we had a great righteous ride, fun time, lots of times. When we'd be in a news break, we'd look at each other, we'd be laughing over a bit we just did, and we'd say, I hope the audience is having as much fun as we did. Andy's role on the Joe and Andy Family was to push the envelope right up to the edge of decency and good taste. My job was to keep him from falling over the edge. I did my best. Many times before we went on the air, about a bit that might be a little questionable, he would say, Joey, it's better to seek forgiveness than ask for permission. And we never asked management for permission before we did a bit after that. I'll never forget it. That was Andy's moniker, and he lived by it. And one of the things that people don't realize about Andy, yeah, he was funny. He was the wittiest guy I ever worked with. He took me places I never would have gone on my own on the radio. We had chemistry because we came from different backgrounds, and we put that together on the air. And I think it worked for us. In fact, I know it did. And I wasn't the same air talent when I left and when he left to go across town. We were successful, but we didn't have that magic chemistry that we had as Joe and Andy. And he was a good-hearted person. I have to add that. A lot of people don't realize when I was going through a tough time in my life, Andy would bring me a roast beef sandwich every morning and say, I'm worried about your eating, partner. Eat this sandwich before we go on. He took really good care of me, and I tried to take care of him. Andy Moes and I had a lot of fun on the radio, and I leave you with this quick little reminder. Take time to have fun, because we all have an expiration date. Thank you.
Joe is a sweet friend, king of the Saturday night oldies, and he's out in the western part of the country, and we wish him all the best. Our next inductee is definitely one who represents integrity in journalism as an investigative reporter for GBH News Center for investigative reporting. He's also a multi-award-winning broadcaster with a great, great track record and so much more to come. Please welcome and watch the video as we induct Phillip Martin into the Hall of Fame.
Growing up in Detroit, I listened to urban radio, and I was enamored with the sounds of radio, the individuals who were introducing music and those who introduced news.
Twice over the past 8 months, I traveled to the Midwest, to a city that has become a metaphor for many, for jobs lost, factories closed, and the disappearance of the 9-to-5 middle class.
GBH called me in 1995 to work for a new program called The World. And it was always funny to tell people I worked for The World. After that, I went to National Public Radio, following a Nieman Fellowship at Harvard. And from there, briefly to WBUR, and from there back to WGBH in the capacity as a reporter, then senior investigative reporter. I arrived in 2010 and have been here since then. In order to explain caste in the United States, it was absolutely critical for me to explain what caste is in India.
He knows everybody. He knows everybody's story because he's such a warm and kind and generous person. Phillip just engages with an open heart. And that has been a lesson that Phillip has helped me learn that has just been extraordinarily powerful.
Why do you think caste has followed you and others across the Atlantic?
Phillip is something of an icon in broadcast because of what he brings to his work. He has a three-dimensional perspective on how one reports a story.
Favorite series, which I think was an important series, was some of the initial reporting and journalism that I did on human trafficking.
It was really taxing on him. He felt for these people and he felt, am I going to be able to, how can I help? It really went to your heart. Phillip was working so hard to tell the story, to make sure that people understood what people get through in this world.
Another important moment for me has been reporting on extremism.
And is that part of the way they're being targeted for that kind of work?
We had a larger audience that understood what was happening in Massachusetts.
Black, Latino, Latinx patients were not receiving the same quality of care, and therefore they wanted to level the playing field.
I don't really think of Phillip as a broadcaster. I think of Phillip as a journalist in broad sense of the word. I admire his almost insatiable curiosity.
His journalistic footprint is really quite something.
Why it's important to continue doing what we do, me as an investigative reporter, others, other types of reporting and broadcasters, is because you really want well-researched, well-documented, data-driven information communicated to the audience at large.
He said, you know, I have the energy to do it, so as long as I have the energy, I will do it.
Here he comes, Phillip Martin, with a cheering section.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Say it like you're in church. My grandfather's church. Wow, I'd seen that before, but that was amazing. I want to extend my gratitude to the Massachusetts Broadcasters Association. I'd like to, and to my fellow honorees, my fellow inductees. I've been trying to understand how I got here, how I got to this place, beyond driving down, 93 South. And I have to believe it began with a series of conversations in Detroit, my hometown. In my working class neighborhood at the ages of 9 and 10, standing in my backyard in Detroit by the fence that separated our two houses, I used to talk to a fella named Willie Manzo. And Mr. Manzo, when he got off work at the Ford Motor Company, he was always eager to have conversations with this young man, 9, 10 years old. He was almost always dressed in overalls, and he would tell stories about his years in the Navy and as a dock worker in exotic places like Okinawa, Japan, and Portland, Maine, and exotic to me in Detroit. And he encouraged me to travel widely and to broaden my horizons. I began doing that first by jumping on buses in Detroit that would take me to anywhere. I wouldn't know where those buses would go. I would simply get off and walk around. He also suggested supplementing my radio listening. Besides WJLB radio, soul radio, he suggested I listen to the Canadian Broadcasting Company, the CBC, right across the Detroit River. And I did, and I learned it was a different perspective, a different sound, a different take on the news of the day, civil rights, different take on Vietnam, a different take on student protests. Now, I got to tell you, my mom wanted me to be a preacher. That was her desire. She was disappointed that I chose the next best thing. When I came to Boston in the 70s, spurred by Willie Manzo's advice to broaden my horizons, I landed at WBCN Radio, where I interned with the great Danny Schechter, the news dissector. Can we give him a round of applause? And then from there, it was over to WILD Radio. One day, the news host, Al Williams, was late coming in. And the program director, Charlene, asked me to read the news. I didn't have a clue. I had zero preparation, zero experience, but I grabbed some AP copy as she directed, And my first story was about a man in a place I pronounced as Worcester. And he was caught running across a roof, this is Detroit, naked. And my second story was relative to the Oceanographic Institute, was about various organisms washing up on a beach, which I pronounced as orgasms. And Karen, Karen, I'm sure Karen remembers this. And Lark Logan, the announcer at that time, she said, "Ooh, we know what was on Phillip Martin's mind last night." But things got better over the years. I took what I learned from radio and later at the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts, and I used those skills at a new program in the mid-90s called The World, and then on to National Public Radio, briefly to WBUR, my own company, and then to GBH, where I have been since 2010, and they have treated me fantastically. And I can tell you, there's a good chance that I would not be here on this stage if not for my wife, Bianca, who I salute. Often when my voice went out over the air, her voice was in my head, telling me that was a good story. It was well done. Or she might say in Italian, bella storia, brava. Occasionally, but gently, she would also say, it was just okay. Here's what was missing, and she would tell me. It was her encouragement in times of discouragement that kept me going and brought me to this moment where I am today on stage speaking to you. And allow me a few more words, please. At this time, as we are squeezed by threats of authoritarianism and threats to democracy, including threats to a free press, what we do as broadcasters is more important than ever. Alison knows this, everyone knows this. So we need to broaden our horizons professionally and hopefully in our personal lives. Recently, I've been diving into the deep end of philosopher Marshall McLuhan's seminal exploration of communication. McLuhan was the fella just north of the border who popularized the term global village. Over the decades, I have been able to grow my own global village, connected by phone and text, hugs and handshakes, respect and dignity. My village of friends, my family of friends. And today, I would also like to honor you. I hate cliches, as all of you know, anyone who knows me. But I'm going to use one today that is abundant in meaning because it does indeed take a village. I'm going to ask my family of friends, my village, my rich, multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-generation mosaic of family of friends, my niece, my GBH family, my Massachusetts family to stand up. Stand up. You brought me here to this hall today. You brought me here to this hall today. I believe in my own abilities. I very much believe in my own abilities, but I also know that I have never stood alone. And for that, I thank you, as I thank my late mom and stepfather, Louise and Brownie, as I thank my late brothers, Omar, Frank, and John, and our family of friends no longer here, UT, Cherry, Lee, Toshima, and others. And it brings me back to those moments years ago, standing by the fence in Detroit, talking and listening to Willie Manzo in his overalls, who I believe would nod in approval today and tell me, Philip, you indeed have expanded, broadened your horizons. Thank you.
Motown's gift to Beantown. Thank you, Philip. Great. Well, before we introduce the video for our next inductee, a quick personal note. We worked together briefly about 40 years ago, and shortly thereafter, my business partner, who's here today, Ken Carberry from Chart Productions, we ordered a special gag tape from this gentleman, Glen Ordway, who was working at the time with Johnny Most. And it was something, we still have it on cassette today, and the gentleman who received it thought it was the greatest gift in the world to hear his name as part of the Celtics lineup in the Bird era. So thank you. I just had to thank you after 40 years. But at this point, you should know that the Big O had done so much and continues to do so much to change the way we look at sports, and particularly sports talk radio. His afternoon show was king of the ratings, and there were a lot of good reasons for it. It was phenomenal, and I do miss the whiner line. Ladies and gentlemen, please pay attention to the video. Here's more on the Big O.
Right. Yeah, now, I just think that, and not a lot of people think this, but I think Glen Ordway is Glen Ordway. But Glen Ordway in 2019, what he is the keeper of his own flame. That's exactly what he is. I mean, Glen Ordway's career is not built upon Glen Ordway in 2019. It's built on Glen Ordway in 1996. It wasn't like Glen Ordway was running the country in 2019. He is being Glen Ordway. Glen Ordway is Glen Ordway because of what he did in 1996, not in 2019.
Gets it on the sideline, goes baseline, throws it up and Larry Bird did it again! He did it again!
Well, in that lack of enthusiasm, Johnny Moes, the voice of the Boston Celtics, along with his broadcast partner, Mr. Glen Ordway, join us this morning to talk about the Celtics and, I suppose, ineluctably, the Lakers.
What is it like?
It's interesting. John is very, very unique in that he's very unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen. I think the last couple of years have been great for me.
Listen,
now we know what each other are doing, and we start to work off of each other.
And he gets the pass. Goes into the lane. Jump pass back out to DJ. DJ throws up. It's gone! It's gone!
I think he was counting the bolts on the floor.
No, he wouldn't do that in the middle of a game.
Hey, look, they're going to interview Kevin.
Here's Glenn.
This is Glen Ordway on the floor at the Garden. We're going to see if we can catch Kevin McHale, ask him a couple of questions, and find out exactly what went wrong out on the floor here tonight. Here he comes right now. Kevin, can I ask you a couple of questions?
110, 111.
I thought you were getting very defensive already.
On The Big Show, the Big O, Glen Ordway and Company dissect the plays and personalities of sports figures in the news.
I'm not saying that he should be replaced by Bledsoe.
What I am saying is that over the last 2 or 3 weeks,
You're starting to see a different side of this kid.
whether it's mental fatigue with the number of games he's playing, a lot more than he's ever played.
I don't wish. I'm watching the games. You guys have no trouble talking about when Bledsoe plays poorly. What's wrong with saying that Brady played poorly? He played poorly yesterday. Do I say stupid things? Yeah, 3 times an hour. I mean, I say them all the time. Am I wrong? I'm wrong 3 times an hour.
For 10 years, all of the people have been calling us up. The progress we've seen has been tremendous, but it's not over yet. There are still many children out there that still need to be helped, and we need your help for that.
Well, we are just thrilled to have the maestro of sports talk radio join us from Scottsdale, Arizona. Bob Lobelli going to do the honors right here to introduce our good pal, Glen Ordway.
The Big O, Glenn, unbelievable. The Big Show.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mike, I'll tell this to Mike. Lobie and I came into the Boston market the same day. Wow. He came in from Manchester, New Hampshire, and I was working up at that WMLO in Beverly, Danvers, which you know well, Mikey. Yeah. But the same day, he and I came into the Boston market.
Wow.
Pretty bizarre.
What are the odds? You were great. You were a great mentor to me. You were a great leader. You were a great friend, and you were awesome. And I couldn't be happier to call you my friend and my colleague, and you were terrific, Big O.
Well, we've all had a great run over the years, and
good to see you guys. Great job.
We don't have any formalities here. We just say goodbye and until next time. All right.
Goodbye. Until next time, fellas. See ya.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Big O, Glen Ordway.
Thank you for not using the prison video. I was only in there for 3 years. It wasn't bad, but I appreciate the fact that you did not use it. So Peter Brown said to me I had 5 minutes
to capitalize a 50-year career. I said, well, it's pretty easy, but the problem I have, I can't place a drive-through order at McDonald's in 5 minutes. So I may need a little bit of time, but I'll try to stay as close as I possibly can. First of all, I want to thank the Massachusetts Broadcasters Association. Obviously, I am extremely humble and touched by the recognition, and I really appreciate it. And I want to say congratulations to all of the others who are going in to the Hall of Fame with me. Congratulations to you. And especially to Barbara Bernard, who I just met today. I'd never met her before. I mean, this is a pioneer in the business, okay? A pioneer in the business. But I also want to thank the committee for taking into consideration some of the youngsters who were on the ballot, okay? Just saying thank you. When Peter first called me, the first thing that came to mind wasn't all of my great accomplishments, if they've been great. The first thing that came to mind is how many times I almost screwed up this career. How many times it almost got derailed. And I'll start with bringing up WMLO, 500 watts of power coming at you on the AM dial. We were at 1570 on the AM dial. That's right to the left of the police calls. So nobody could hear us. So my job when I started, I'm 22, 23 years old. I have no clue what I'm doing. Part of the job was I was a DJ during the daytime. And then on the weekend, since I was the new guy on the block, I had to produce the foreign language programs. They were all on Sunday morning. We had the Greek show, we had the Portuguese show, and we had the Spanish show. So one day, it's a Sunday morning, early Sunday morning. I think I had a rough Saturday night. I showed up at the studio. Nobody else is there. It's, tiny little house. And there's a two-way key, but you need the key from the outside to open up, and in the inside, you also need a key, so it doesn't have a latch. I show up, no key, no problem, because I know we always leave the window in the back open. So I opened up the window, I snuck in, I get the Greek show on the air. Yeah, Mr. Medeiros, he had a blast. We did an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever. Then the Portuguese show starts. Wonderful man. I remember him to this day, Americo Mello. He was about 475 pounds. He couldn't fit through the window. I had a major problem. Again, my career is flashing by me here. So I said, what the hell am I going to do? So I finally devised an idea of putting a bunch of cords, because those days, cheap little radio station, they didn't have long cords. They had a bunch of, 6-footers. I put them all together, put a microphone outside. There was only one problem. A raging blizzard outdoors. I apologized about 50 times to Americo, and we got him on the air. He was out sitting in a snowbank, okay, doing the show as I'm doing it on the air. There was another big problem. I don't understand Portuguese. I barely understand English. So I didn't understand Portuguese, so now I'm on the turntables playing the wrong songs. And the phones are lighting up, and he's screaming at me from outside. Needless to say, the next morning I applied for a job at General Electric. Career is over, Glenn. It was fun while it lasted. Next week, I'm doing the show again because he never said a word to my boss. So he shows up the next week, and I was smart, had the key this time. He got into the front door. And I said to him, why did you never turn me in? And he said, why would I turn you in? You found a way of getting me on the air after a major problem. Oh, my God, I love that man. Americo Mello, I'll never forget him. He was unbelievable. So I had another problem where my career, I thought, was done in history. They say in the business, you're always going to get a break. You just need to be prepared when you get that break. So I'm working at that same station. I'm building up a resume. I'm doing an afternoon drive sports show. I'm doing play-by-play high school sports. We're building a lot of programming on the station. I get a 2-page letter. And the first page of the letter, this guy is raving about my work and telling me what a great future I have, et cetera, et cetera. And then the second page is like constructive criticism and kind of, bringing me down a peg. It is signed Kurt Gowdy. Massachusetts Broadcasters, by the way, Hall of Fame, okay? Kurt Gowdy. It's on WCCM stationary, and the first thing that comes to my mind is Kurt Gowdy is not listening to some 500-watt radio station. I know what he's doing. This is one of my friends. They're pranking me. They're doing this as a stunt. So I said, screw it. I went to my friends. They all denied it. I let a month and a half, 2 months go by. Suddenly there's a phone call at the radio station. They said, Kurt Gowdy is on the phone for you. I said, good. We're going to finally get to the bottom of this. Pick up the phone. I said, hello, this is Glenn. Who is this? And then I realized as the words were coming out of Gowdy's mouth that my friends were not talented enough to do a really good Kurt Gowdy impression. And I was screwed. But I will tell you this, he was the greatest guy, and we had a lot of fun with him at Davios. He was just a wonderful guy, and he really helped along in my career. Helped to the point where 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, I got my opportunity, my break, this time I was ready, to go to Boston. Paul Kelly, general manager at WMEX, called me. Paul Kelly, Massachusetts Broadcasters, Hall of Fame. You're seeing the connection here. There's a lot of connection with a lot of the people who are already in this Hall of Fame, which makes me very proud to be part of it. So he put me on the air. I got to do the Boston Bruins for 2 years with Bob Wilson. I got to do talk shows. And then suddenly I got an amazing break in 1981 when I got the opportunity to join the Boston Celtics, but it wasn't easy. Johnny Moes was having some health difficulties. They knew that I had done high school play-by-play, so they said, he can go in there and do it. So the first game I did, I fly to Philadelphia. First game, I did play-by-play of Boston Celtics basketball when the previous game I did was Beverly versus Danvers. Yeah, this Bird kid's a lot better than that Jones kid we had on that Beverly team. You know, he's a lot better. But the funny thing about that is that turned into a major job, but once again, I thought I was screwed. So they said to me, they came to me and asked me if I want the full-time job of working side by side with Johnny Moes. And I said, you gotta be kidding me. I'm a kid that grew up in Lynn, Massachusetts with a transistor radio under my pillow. I remember exactly where I was when Havlicek stole the ball. And I'm going to get this opportunity? Unbelievable. They said, there's one thing you have to do, though. I said, what's that? You got to meet with Red Auerbach. Red has to approve it. Excuse my language. I was scared shitless. I'm sitting there going, I got to meet with Red Auerbach? Yes, you got to meet with Red Auerbach. Okay. So Jan Vogt takes me over to Red Auerbach's office. We walk in there. Red's got a big Hoya de Monterey, you know, firing up a cigar. The whole room is all smoke. He's watching his favorite TV show, Hawaii Five-0, on the screen. Now remember, I had just done the Bruins for 2 years. He starts screaming at me. The first thing he says to me is, okay, I know who you are. You're a hockey guy. I want nothing to do with hockey guys. And he sits there and he starts ripping it apart. So then finally he gives me the opportunity. He says to me, okay, give me your spiel. Tell me why you should do this job. So I sat and I talked for about, I don't know. I had no idea what I was saying. I still don't know what I said at the time, but I went on for, 2 or 3 minutes. I finish, dead silence in the room. A lot of smoke, but dead silence. 10 seconds, 20 seconds. I don't know how much time had gone by. He finally says to me, McGarrett always gets his guy, and he's going to get him again right now. And then I look at him and I said, so what do I do next? And he goes, you can leave the room now. I said, I'm done. No way. Next morning, Jan Vogt calls me up and says, welcome to the Boston Celtics. Red was thrilled with you. I said, thrilled? What did I miss in all of that? And I got to work with the legendary Johnny Moes. I certainly consumed 7 years of secondhand smoke. I probably put out 3 or 4 fires when his pants went ablaze. They were polyester and they melted down pretty quickly. But I was pretty good at putting out fires at that time, so I did put it out, and it was all worth it. All of this stuff that I've done was all worth it. And maybe the most challenging and maybe the most rewarding was working with an exceptional group of people who are sitting over here, many of them anyway. an exceptional group of talented people that we're going to put a sports radio station on 8:50 a.m. And it turned out that we all together were able to turn WEEI into a legacy radio station. And for that, I thank all of those people over there because they were a big part of it. And some of them should be where I am right now in this Hall of Fame. The other thing I'd like to say is I keep on hearing this from people, and I heard it from a couple people here today. They said, well, you got this unbelievable talent tree, Felger and Maserati and, all these other guys that were doing shows with you. And I said, yeah, and I'm really proud of that. But I said, some of it is a little bit selfish. And somebody said to me, what do you mean it's selfish? I said, why would you not want to surround yourself with the most competent and talented people? They're only going to make you better, and they're going to make the project that you're working on together a lot better. I don't know about you. I don't want to work with incompetent stiffs. I'm sorry. I want to work with great people, and I have been blessed to work with some of the greatest people, and I don't, unfortunately, have 5 hours to go through 50 years of thanking them all. I will thank every one of them personally, and I think many of them know who they are. Finally, when you have a radio job, it's not a 9-to-5 job. And you are, as a parent, you're going to miss some recitals. You're going to miss some games. You're going to miss some holidays because you're flying out of town and you're doing different things. And I just want to thank my family, my wonderful wife, Sarah, and my children.
Magic 106.7. A greater media station just after 10. Hi, it's Candy O. We don't just say we're going to play a lot of soft rock. We do it. The most music lives right here. WMJX HD1. Boston.
Candy O'Terry spent 25 years at Magic 106.7, but she's a lifelong singer who fronted a band in the 80s, and singing radio jingles is what brought her to radio.
LA Health and Fitness. LA.
Colombo Slim will keep you trim. It's a yogurt that can't be beat. Spring water from Great Bear, the natural choice.
The single mother of two, Candy got a scholarship to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting in Wellesley Hills and landed an 8-week temporary fill-in job as the secretary to Magic's program director, Don Kelly. And Candy's radio career began. Here's her very first break, July 19, 1992.
You're in the middle of a continuous half hour of soft rock on Magic 106.7.
Using Magic's Nancy Quill as her on-air role model, Candy spent the next few years working 9 to 5 as the station's programming assistant, and then pulled weekend overnight shifts while her kids slept in the newsroom. In 1993, Candy came up with the idea for a weekly public affairs program called Exceptional Women, co-hosted by news director Gay Vernon. Rising through the ranks to become the assistant program director at Magic, Candy spent 14 years in afternoon drive with Dan Justin and continued her devotion to the fight against breast cancer as the spokesperson for the American Cancer Society's Making Strides Against Breast Cancer Walk. In March of 2013, Candy was promoted to Morning Drive with Mike Adams, and 3 weeks later would cover the Boston Marathon bombing.
When the bombs went off in Boston on Marathon Monday, I knew I needed to do a series on exceptional women who were there that day. And these are their stories.
One of the greatest thrills of Candy O's life was singing with the Boston Pops, playing her own songs on the radio, and singing on live television for the Boston tree lighting.
All I want is to hold you forever.
Candy's career after 25 years at Magic 106.7 has not slowed down. She's the creator of The Story Behind Her Success podcast and radio series, and launched the Candy O Radio Network. A recent breast cancer survivor, Candy O'Terry continues to be a champion for women everywhere. Candy O'Terry, still magic after all these years.
for 2 solid years. He made my coffee, he shoveled out my car. I am so lucky to be his. Co-hosting the Exceptional Women show with Gay Vernon, a labor of love. We were so fortunate to shine a light on women from every walk of life, and I am so grateful to my friend Sue Tabb on Magic Now for keeping that tradition alive. These inspiring stories continue with the story behind her success, weekly podcast and radio series, recorded at Chart Productions and heard now on 11 stations from the South Shore all the way to Portland, Maine, including these local stations, my new family, WATD, WCRN, WMRC, WMEX, and WRKO. 1,000 women have shared their stories with me at this point in my career, including TV icons and dear friends Joyce Kulhawick, Maria Stefanos, and Liz Bruner, all here in this room today. I have always been a warrior in the fight against breast cancer, but recently I went from being an advocate to a patient. I really did fall apart, like you would expect. I was terrified. But the outpouring of friendship from the breast cancer community is what lifted me up and carried me on. When I close my eyes, I can still see my office at Magic. It's late at night, and I push in my chair, I reach for my coat, I turn out the light. I hear the familiar hum of the station, soft rock, in my monitors. I will always be a radio girl. And everywhere I go, people say to me, I heard you on the radio this morning. I used to correct them and say, no, 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 that's not me. But now, I just smile and say thank you. I want to thank you for this great honor because every detail is etched on my heart. Thank you.
You know, today has been, before we have our final honoree, today has been an example of theater of the mind, whether it's Glenn Clark crawling through the window or Candy talking about bringing her kids to the all-night show. We all can identify with that, right? All of us, TV, radio, it doesn't matter, or those of us who love those who do this for a living. We all have stories. Well, now it's my pleasure to introduce our final honoree, and it's very appropriate because I introduced her not too long ago as the Massachusetts Broadcasters Association Broadcaster of the Year. And not to mix up my geology terms, but this lady, Pebbles, is a rock star, no question about it. Couldn't resist. Ladies and gentlemen, please pay attention to the video for our final inductee.
Having a 35-year career in one media market certainly isn't unheard of. But having a 35-year career with just 3 different jobs, all in your hometown, definitely shows amazing staying power. Born in Wareham, Massachusetts, Pebbles went to Northeastern University as an engineering major. She admits that she really had no idea what that meant or what she would do with an engineering degree.
She didn't even think about ever being in radio. And it just happened. It just fell in her lap.
A star cheerleader at Northeastern, she first stepped into a radio station with an internship at WILD 1090. This led to her first official radio job as part of the WILD morning show. Pebbles quickly became known for her fun contributions to the show, big laugh, and reporting on celebrity gossip. She was Boston's original TMZ. As part of WILD's community outreach, Pebbles immediately found that giving back to her community made her happy, and she began reading to children at the Roxbury branch of the Boston Public Library. This was the initial spark for Pebbles' Reading Rockstar program, an outreach program that she continues by visiting schools to share the importance of literacy and her love of reading. In 1995, Pebbles made a big jump to the morning show on a new FM station, Jammin' 94.5, after program director Cadillac Jack loved her on-air presence. Eventually, she was partnered with Ramiro and Melissa to form the origins of the morning show that is now on Hot 96.9 and has lasted for 23 years together as one of Boston's highest-rated morning shows. Across her career, Pebbles has worked with many charities like the Boys and Girls Club, Girl Scouts of Eastern Mass, Project Bread, and Media Girls.
She really is somebody who I can credit a lot of my career to because of her, the way that she welcomed me into the industry.
Well, before I worked with her, she was like somebody who I listened to on the radio. So she was one of the personalities that I thought it was cool to be working at the same station with. So then when I got on mornings with her, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm on with Pebbles.
Even after 35 years of waking up extremely early, Pebbles still loves keeping Boston listeners entertained with her crew of Ramiro, Melissa, and Leroy. Staying power in Boston radio and media, 35 years and counting.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Hall of Fame is proud to welcome a new inductee, Pebbles.
Oh, the pressure of going last. First, congratulations to all of the other inductees. It is an honor to be standing here with all of you today in this incredible moment for all of us. God, I said I wasn't going to cry. You know, trying to figure out what I wanted to say today has really been a challenge for me. I mean, what do you say about a 30-plus year career in a few minutes? And as the day was approaching, I actually got my answer to what I wanted to talk about while I was on a visit to a school at Mrs. Nault's first grade class this week. So I've been visiting her class in Drake for about 13 years now. And I go and I read to the kids, and we do all types of different projects. So this time when I went, she had the kids create what she called Proud Clouds. And so it was like a little cloud, and it had 3 strips coming from it, hanging from it, that they wrote things that they were proud of that they had accomplished during the year. So that made me think that in this moment, I would do the thing that I probably hate doing the most, talk about myself, and a few of the things that I'm proud of. The first thing that I'm proud of is that I survived. This business is not easy, especially for someone like me. I'm an introvert, and this is a profession of extroverts, and it's very difficult. And I don't like the spotlight, being in front of crowds, and it's really almost surreal that this is what I ended up doing with my career. I survived going through, not to get dark here, but I survived a lot of difficult things in my personal life throughout my career, the death of my sister, my father, other family members and friends. And there were periods also that I went through really crippling depression and anxiety. And there were days that I was behind the mic, but really not there. But I survived, and it has been the adventure of a lifetime. Another thing I'm proud of is adapting to change in the industry. I remember having a discussion, I don't even know if you remember Cadillac, a long time ago, where I was talking about how I was terrible with change, and you told me, you said, that is not true. He said, you know, you may not like change, but you've always adapted to it well and done well with it, and I've never forgotten that, so thank you. I'm also proud that I have used this job and this platform to make a difference in other people's lives, especially the lives of women and children. And it makes me cry all the time when I have people come up to me and tell me that they remember when I went to read to their class when they were a kid, and now they're all grown up and have kids of their own and are reading to them. And we are just so lucky to do what we do, and I can't imagine not using this to make someone else's life better. And Finally, I am proud of the fact that I am not done yet. Not done with radio, not done with growing, with learning, with traveling, loving my family and friends, and living life to the fullest. Something that, a lot of people may not know about me is that, except the people that have to deal with me on a daily basis. 7 of my favorite humans in the whole world are the members of the K-pop group BTS. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes, Army! Woohoo! Jin's home. Anyway, and it made me think, when I think about, my life and how I'm not done yet, the lyrics of one of their songs explains that perfectly for me. A new chapter, every moment is a new best. There's still a lot to learn. There's a lot to fill my life with. Yes, the past was honestly the best, but my best is what comes next. The best moment is yet to come. Thank you so much to the Massachusetts Broadcasters Association for this incredible honor, to Beasley Media Group for allowing me to continue this adventure, to my family over at Table 27. I love you all. I have the best family in the whole world. Thank you for always loving and supporting me, especially my mother, who has always been my #1 fan. Thank you, Henrietta. To the best coworkers ever over on Table 28, my Hot 96.9 family, I love you, and I am so, so grateful for you. Those here today, Cadillac, Scott, Aaron, Martha, Jesse, and Mary, who couldn't be here today. And finally, to Romero, Melissa, and Leroy, the very best morning crew. I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for your love and support through the hard times, the laughter through the good times, and for making sure that I never experience a boring day in my life. I love you guys so much. Thank you all.
One thing you should know about Pebbles, I asked her this question. Yes, she did work this morning. She did the shift, got up early. Before we conclude, just one real quick note, and that is please stick around and share stories and say hello to your friends and neighbors. And don't forget to go to the website for the Massachusetts Broadcasting Hall of Fame and check out the nominees for next year and some of the past nominees. And I think it will be really great to wrap this one up with a Go Celtics sign, but also with a nice round of applause for all of our wonderful inductees into the Hall of Fame. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. God bless. Take care.